Hello everyone, welcome to Animator's Breakfast. This is a podcast where we talk about inspiration with different people who have worked or work in the animation industry. And today I've got a really lovely treat, which is every time I've got really interesting people. But I've got Fatma Almheiri here.
Hello.
Yes, hello Fatma.
Oh, sorry.
No,
I didn't mean to interrupt.
You're not allowed. Fatma is lovely, by the way, despite what she'll tell you about herself.
No, I think I'm lovely.
Do you really?
No.
Fatma, tell us a bit about yourself. Or do you want me to tell you about yourself and you can tell me what's right?
I think, yeah, you do that.
Okay.
Yes, since you have your notes.
Fatma is an Emirati artist who is the creator and director of Emara, which is a 5-part miniseries on YouTube, which is really amazing, I think.
Go on. Don't hold back.
Yeah, it was fine. You know, had a couple issues.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to do this.
Oh, I'm really happy to have you, and thank you again. It's really nice to get kind of global perspectives, because even where I am in Ireland, you can kind of get stuck with the same people who have had a very similar journey into the industry and have very similar interests. So it's nice to kind of see more globalized perspective. Does that make sense? Yes,
I think it makes sense. Yes.
Emara, by the way, is an Emirati superhero series. I'm not telling you this because you created it. I'm saying it to the audience in case they haven't seen it. And as far as I'm aware, you kind of created it to help demonstrate proper representations of Arabs in, let's say, media, especially animation.
Yeah, not necessarily like proper, just like not Jasmine.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if you noticed, but Jasmine's kind of a like mess of a bunch of different brown cultures all mashed together, which you would like, nobody would do that, especially in recent years with like anything else.
Yeah.
Like for example, taking like Japanese and Chinese and Korean culture and putting it under like
smashing it
all together and saying, these guys are all like the same place and the same people, and it's not the case.
Yeah.
Like we don't even have a shared language. I was always conflicted about the whole, like, I wanted to really like Aladdin as a kid, and I did, but it was never Arabian to me.
Okay, cool.
You know?
Yeah. So you created Emara.
Yeah. So I wanted to, it was really important for me. I felt like create a female character specifically for a lot of Arab and Muslim kids growing up, to kind of like be able to see themselves not just as a side character or just a character in the background, but to see them as the main character. That was really important to me.
I mean, how did it come about? I know we've talked about the inspirational part of it and the kind of the moral reasons why, but technically, like, that's a really hard thing to get going. To get a full crew of people behind you and make a 5 episodes. What are they, 10 minutes each, a bit longer?
Maybe even a little bit less if you don't include the intro and outro.
Okay, well, I'm trying to boost up the numbers here.
I'm keeping it real. It is, I know a lot of talented Arab animators and talented non-Arab animators that are also based in the UAE. With Emara, it wasn't hard to put a crew together, because when you have when you have a good budget, you can literally bring anyone, or you can send the production wherever you want.
Yeah.
For us, with animated projects coming out of here, it's always like we're always struggling to find financial support for it.
Yes,
it's not a lack of talent, and it was never an issue of a lack of talent. It always has to do with the budget. Yeah.
Like, people want to create things. It's just they also need to eat and live. And devote the time to it, and for that you need the money. Yeah,
and here there is money that's supposed to go into funding projects like this.
Yeah,
but it usually ends up going into like live action things or things that are like, I mean, they prefer to invest outside also sometimes.
Yeah,
if it's not live action. So with animation, it's still a little bit new, newly being introduced to the media sector in the UAE. With that being said, they're also very unfamiliar with animation budgets. So in their minds, they're like, these are cartoons, these are just drawings.
Yeah.
Why does it cost this much to produce?
Yeah.
So that was very difficult to get through, and that's the reason why we weren't able to carry on into another season
yet. I hope.
Yet.
Yeah.
I mean, you never know.
I think what you guys did on Emara was really unique and really interesting. That's what really drew it to me originally. I just saw it and I was like, wow, this is amazing to see that this quality of animation is coming out of not exactly a huge team of people.
Oh, we were very small.
Yeah.
A very, very small number of people.
Yeah, I saw that in the credits. Like everyone shared different tasks.
Yeah, we were all doing everything.
Exactly.
Like I was also doing like in-betweens. I was also doing cleanup and inking and whatever. Like you kind of have to when you're like a team that's that small and you're really trying to prove a point with this project. It takes a toll.
Yeah. But I think you need a break. Like everyone needs a break after a while.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Jesus, it's even if you love what you're doing. People always say, "Oh, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life." That's kind of bull.
That's not true.
Yeah,
that's not
true. You absolutely need to take a break from because you're gonna kill yourself doing what you love, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Burn yourself out.
The only difference I would say is if you're doing something you love, it's going to feel a lot more rewarding at the end of a project. Like, I would say that's more of a difference. But it's not that you're not going to feel the hard work, because you will feel a lot of it.
Yeah.
It's very physically demanding as well as mental.
Yeah. If someone hadn't seen Emara, what would you say about it?
I would say it is the story of a young hijabi superhero that's struggling to balance between her superhero antics and her real life nonsense. And also there's other cool characters with them.
Okay, great. I'm sold.
Yeah, I'm better worded on paper. Like,
do you want to write it down and come back to me?
Yeah. Could you give me like a good 15, 20 minutes
no worries.
and a thesaurus or something?
Thesaurus.
It's look, I think whatever project I usually end up with, a lot of whatever I do is usually character driven.
Okay.
So I say for like Emara is like the story of these characters, and it starts with Emara, who's a hijabi superhero, and she's just trying to understand the world around her and also still try to prove herself in being a superhero.
It sounds really good.
Thank you.
Well, I didn't bring you on just to talk about Emara. Obviously, the point of this is people to talk about what inspired them, and you had a really interesting choice, so I'll let you introduce us all to what and why.
Oh, I okay. Thank you for giving me the freedom to choose what we get to talk about in this episode.
You're welcome.
At first, I was like, "Dang, I want to talk about so many different things," but one animated movie in particular that I will constantly like praise and go back to, and it is my favorite Disney movie of all time, is Treasure Planet.
Wow.
The reason it really stood out to me as a kid is because up until that point, all the Disney movies I've seen was very... I love me some Disney princesses, don't get me wrong.
Okay.
But it was... The reason it stood out is because it didn't have that whole... guy saves girl, prince saves princess, guy gets princess. Like it was coming from a completely different setup than what I was used to seeing as a kid, and I really loved that, and I really loved Jim Hawkins, and I saw a lot of myself in him as a character.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I could not stop rewatching it. I was one of those, like, until now, I don't like rewatching things.
Yeah.
I'm gonna watch something one time and that's it.
Interesting. Yeah.
Like my brother, for example, Lion King, he had to watch it every single night for years because he loved the movie so much, and it put him to sleep. It kept me up at night, but it put him to sleep.
That's all that matters.
Yeah. So up until Treasure Planet, there was like no cartoon movie that you could have convinced me to rewatch more than like the one time or two times. But Treasure Planet was that movie for me, and I could not stop watching it to this day.
Oh yeah. Well, that's great because not a lot of people talk about it. But it is like, it's a technical feat of ingenuity, and it's so different to everything else that they put out at the time. It's something that I'd forgotten about on my radar, and when you said it, I was like, oh shit, yeah, I haven't seen that in a long time. I think as a kid I had a game, a Treasure Planet like CD-ROM game.
Oh.
Yeah, I know that my grandparents had a computer. Yeah, I got it on a box of cereal back when cereal was given free stuff with it.
Oh, those were the days.
I remember running it on this old Windows 95 machine, and just, I can't even remember the game. I think it didn't work.
But you played the game after you saw the movie?
I hadn't seen the movie first, so I went and watched the movie then because of the disc. I actually, when I got it, I thought it was the movie on a little DVD. I was a kid.
I don't blame you, because I don't think Disney did a very good job of advertising for it. Even when I saw it as a kid, I saw it on cassette. I didn't see it in the cinemas.
Yeah, I don't think I did either. I'd seen Hercules and Tarzan in the cinema. Treasure Planet? No, it was not. It was, I don't know what it was. Yeah, I think you're right. It slipped right past me.
Do you know why?
Tell me.
Because it came out the exact same time as the first Harry Potter movie. Yeah, it was, first of all, they didn't advertise it very well. I think Disney knew that it wasn't going to do very well. At that point, they had already, I think they promised the sequel before they even released the actual movie. So when they did, like, I think they did surveys or something. Anyways, their marketing team came back to them and they were like, yeah, this is going to flop.
No.
So I think they wanted it to flop on purpose as well, like badly enough so that they can pull the plug on the sequel.
Okay, they had a sequel in the works as well. Yeah, I remember reading that.
Yeah, they paid, I think, around 140 million was the budget for Treasure Planet, and what got back to them was around 100 million.
Oh, wow.
And only 33% of that was like domestic.
That's pretty bad numbers.
It's very bad, but you sent it into the box office with Harry Potter. What were you expecting? It was also around the same time like DVDs were becoming a big thing.
Okay.
So I think at least if my mom was ever planning on getting it, I think at that time they were like, oh, you know what? I'm waiting for the DVD to come out.
Do you know, it's funny because that period of animation, the transition between the kind of traditional 2D stuff into the CG 3D that we're kind of very used to now. Films like Treasure Planet or even Atlantis or The Iron Giant, let's say, they all kind of fall around that range of time, and they all fall commercially unsuccessful.
But that just doesn't make sense to me, because they're like such, like, I could argue that they're like one of the best animated movies of that time, but I do genuinely believe, and Iron Giant and Atlantis also included, because I really love those movies as well.
Yeah, me too.
I feel like they were ahead of their time. They came out way ahead of their time.
Yeah, and I think if people were doing that now, it would be very praised. Like,
are you
2D
kidding?
Well, actually, if I think about it, Spider-Verse is all about that.
Yeah, actually, that's a really good example.
And they're all trying to come back to that balance of, you know, the artist hand on paper or on screen, not just CG animation. And as well, when I look at something, so just so if anyone hasn't seen Treasure Planet, go and watch it, obviously, first of all, and then come back. But it's a reimagining of Robert Louis Stevenson's Treasure Island, but basically set in an alternate space. I think they call the Ethereum. So like there's wind and people can breathe. They don't need space helmets.
Yeah. When you said that they didn't need like actual like oxygen to breathe or whatever, because I remember one of the characters actually invested a lot into this like little costume thing that I think was supposed to let him breathe on the. I think he didn't think it through. It's funny because he's supposed to be the smartest character on that.
Yeah, which is amazing as well, which is part of the something that when you start digging deep, like the character motivations are amazing, and how they kind of twisted it from the original book into this and changed everything to have really deep meaning. Like, you know, the whole thing that in the original book, Jim's dad was actually still around up until they meet Billy Bones, whereas in the movie he like leaves quite early, and that gives that, you know, that detachment, that he's that rebellious youth looking for a father figure, which leads into meeting Long John Silver, or John Silver, I think they just call him in this. It's really subtle subtle writing.
I think out of the directors that worked on this,
Yeah.
I think they're called Clements and Musker.
Musker,
They worked on a lot of other movies prior to Treasure Planet. One of which was like The Great Mouse Detective, and there was The Little Mermaid, Aladdin, and Hercules as well. I think out of all, even if you watch all those films next to Treasure Planet, I still think like Jim is like the strongest character that they've presented out of like all those films that they worked on, including I think Moana. I think they worked on Moana as well.
That's amazing. Why do you think that?
I think because they really wanted to do this movie. They wanted to. Treasure Planet was something they've been trying to do before they even worked on The Great Mouse Detective.
Yeah.
And every time they would pitch it to Disney, and I think it was Katzenberg that was
good old Jeffrey.
that they were dealing with at the time. Yeah. So they would like constantly like pitch this to them, and he would like just throw them another movie and be like, oh, get through this like Detective Mouse movie first and then we'll talk. And then they'll be like, okay, we're done. How about Treasure Planet? And they're like, no, do Aladdin and then we'll talk. And then it's Hercules and then it's yada yada. So until eventually they like, I think after they were done with either I think it was Hercules. That they were like, guys, we did all these films for you. This is a movie that we really want to do. We really want to do Treasure Island in space. And Disney's already made a film based on this before, so it's still a Disney story, you know, in that sense. So yes, please let us do this movie. And they let them do the movie. And then I feel like they kind of sabotaged them
at the other end. But they put in a lot of. So Jim is I agree. He's completely amazing. I think there was something like 17 people working just to animate him.
Wow.
When I looked at the credits, there's so many people. John Ripa was the supervising animator, and then he had 16 other people like animating him. So they really get things right. Apart from just the writing, there's little moments like I remember because I only watched it yesterday again.
Oh,
so
nice.
It's pretty fresh in my head. Yeah. There's little moments where, you know, after the mother's inn is burnt down by the pirates, and they're sitting in Doppler's his like observatory, and she's sitting by the fire, and Jim puts a blanket around her, and it's almost as if he goes to say something, and then he doesn't, and like he points and then takes his hand away, and kind of you can see him catching his breath and his words, and he turns away. That he wants to do good and be a good person, but like all his development has just stunted that. So it's like physically impossible for him to do something like that, which is a really sweet little touch. And he's not even the focus of that scene. The other two talking are, and it's that kind of stuff where you're just like, oh wow, yeah, good job, guys.
He really feels like a real character. Not that the others don't, but like he feels like a real like teenage characters, whereas like the other Disney princesses, like aside from like Tiana, they kind of have very like unrealistic like kind of setups that you wouldn't normally like relate to. I mean, they're princesses and or princes or whatever, you know, they're just like hiding from a witch or something, you know. And poor Jim is just, you know, a kid that's been labeled as like a bad seed that's just trying to learn how to grow up a little bit on his own.
God, even talking about it now is making me all warm and like really appreciative of what they did in that film. It's so sad that it just was kind of sabotaged in its attempt.
Yeah, it is really sad. Like, can you imagine if they really tried to like at least push a little bit more for the marketing side of it, that it would have been a super, like, at least to me, it's a successful movie in terms of like the film itself and everything.
It's a really good example of like art will always speak eventually. You know, good art will get its appreciation over time, whereas like bad stuff will, even though if it does well at the start, it'll be derated slowly. You know, like the first Transformers, when that came out, people were like, oh, this is amazing. And then over time, it's just like, well, the story's a bit bad, isn't it? It doesn't make sense. But stuff like this. Yeah,
I think it will be like Atlantis and Treasure Planet, even the Iron Giant that you mentioned earlier. I feel like these are films like even like in 20 years and 40 years and 100 years, I think they're still like somebody could still watch it and be like,
Yeah.
hey, this is a really good movie. This is a really good film. And then they're going to be shocked when they go back and check like the stats of how they did in the box office.
Just like, what is this?
Yeah.
You know, for me, it could be two different things. One, when people, like when we're younger and we grow up and we watch something like this, it does have a lasting impact. And you bring that sensibility with you throughout, because it's something you'll refer back to even without thinking about it. So as a next generation of filmmakers come up, they use these as influences, and they kind of subvert the status quo current work. But also with something like this or The Iron Giant, like if you think I did an episode with Aidan, we talked about The Iron Giant, where it's like it's kind of hard, you know, that the giant is CG animated, but it blends so well with everything. It's like really,
and it interacts so well with everything
exactly,
as well.
which is one of the things they did amazing in this. Now, something you can definitely tell the CG, but the level of detail that they've done, like if you consider a character like John Silver and that his arm, his leg, and his eye are completely 3D.
Oh my God, I do not envy the animators that had to work on that.
Yeah, there was a lot of them as well. Not as much as Jim.
Yeah, but he came out so well. It's just such.
You forget about
I know
the
he's
arm.
a very gruff design.
Yeah.
John Silver has a very gruff design, but like from an animator, and I think any artist would say his design is gorgeous.
Really, like just so well balanced. You look at him, you kind of get a sense of who he is straight away, and it's a lot of like there's so much flowing motion, and I think it's really smart. I don't know if you know this, but the supervising animator on Silver was Glenn Keane.
I am familiar with Glenn Keane. I didn't know he was the supervising animator on
Silver.
On Silver, though. Wow.
So you can see that, like, I saw some behind the scenes of like his rough 2D tests and how they kind of go forward into Silver's final animation, but he brings all that weight and sensibility of everything he's done since he joined Disney. You know, like he obviously designed and did a lot of Ariel in The Little Mermaid, and he's done so much like the Beast in Beauty and the Beast, and you feel like there's so much life in everything. He animated or at least he did the rough tests of, you know, the opening scene between Jim and his mother Sarah.
Oh, and he was a baby.
Yeah, the little baby, and it's so cute and tumbly.
I could rewatch like little baby Jim like forever. He's just so cute, and the way they animated the interaction between the mom and him is just it's also very real.
Yeah, and that's just Glenn Keane's sensibility coming through. Like he's a superbly talented animator. I actually don't know many people that can rival that level of. We've grown up with seeing his work, so I think for me at least, he defined that kind of Disney style, that warmth, you know, the big eyes and that warmth of character style. And he can animate in any form, but when you look at that stuff, you're just like, oh my God, it's beautiful. And then to work with 3D on top of his stuff.
Yeah, I don't know how he
to figure all that out.
Oh God.
Oh my God.
It's like having to relearn everything all over again.
Yeah, it's like, and especially at a point where CG wasn't really that well done, like at the stage we are now.
Yeah, but I think they did a really good job with Treasure Planet. Like
They did.
Like at least when I was, maybe I'll clock a few things here and there now, but like when I was a kid, I couldn't tell that anything looked like it wasn't supposed to be there. Yeah, like it came together pretty well.
I think part of that is their lighting. Like they render out the 3D quite flat, and then they could add all the lighting and shadows in post, like when they did the hand-drawn finishing. So even all the CG has that bleeding of light and matches the scene quite well, as well as the 2D drawn characters.
Yeah, and then they were using that, there was a program that they were using to kind of like animate the layouts. I think it was called Canvas or something.
Deep Canvas, wasn't it?
Yes, Deep Canvas. The same thing that they used for Tarzan.
Oh yeah, with the trees.
Yeah, and I just like, God, I was like, so I did not pay as well, obviously as a kid I didn't pay that much attention to it, but like as I rewatch it now as an adult, like I just catch myself like just paying more attention to like all those like insane like scene changes and like the bonkers layouts that they did with Deep Canvas. It's so gorgeous.
Oh my God, the scene changes. Yeah, like you know that one with the moon, the crescent moon to the spaceport.
Yes.
Oh my God. Or
like the one that really like, I think, you know what? I think I might have picked up on this one as a kid. I just couldn't tell what was happening.
Wow.
It is when Jim is trying to outrun that spider monster guy.
Yeah. Crab things.
Yeah, the way they kind of like, it feels like you're kind of like running away like with Jim as he's like escaping like that tunnel inside the ship. The way they just like expanded that and they moved it around, it just like I know they didn't do like a crazy amount of things with that, but the way it presented just like really made the scene like 10 times more intense than it originally was, I think.
Yeah, and I agree. There's something like when you have let's say the stage in 3D, you can do whatever you want with the camera. You can spin it and twist it any way that you want. And like, it's funny, when I was talking to Aidan in the Iron Giant, they didn't really do that apart from maybe the end scenes. But like for something like that, to be able to animate a 2D character within a 3D environment so believably like that, especially with a camera that's sweeping around and maintain proportions and you know, maintain the model of the character and everything, it seems phenomenal to do. You don't really see it still. There's only 2 instances where I can think of kind of loopy, wavy animation recently, and that's I think it was there was one in the Tangled series recently where they did this full 360 spin.
Oh my god, when they did that they did it with 2D rigs. That's not easy.
Yeah.
That's not easy at all.
It's insane. Like I just couldn't believe when I saw that.
Yeah, everybody was sending it to me. I was like, yeah, I've seen it. It's amazing. But stop spamming me with it. I was actually never that into Tangled as much.
Yeah.
I think like it's a nice movie, but I don't know. I'm like I wouldn't die for
Rapunzel. You're a Frozen girl.
I'm not actually. I just really loved Frozen 2. Like I liked it way more than Frozen 1. Like Frozen 1 to me was like Tangled. Like it was a fun movie. Okay, it had some good music. But I didn't really think much of it until the trailer of Frozen 2 came out. Now I'm like, now I'm for Frozen. This is good.
Yeah, it's nice to see that they are pushing in different directions than a traditional hero's journey kind of story, which is great, and it's amazing stuff, and it speaks every single time because it's true for all mythology and all stories. Like the interesting ones have a certain rhythm to them, but it's nice to see that it's not just like boy meets girl.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It was just like, I appreciate the side romance that was in Treasure Planet.
Yeah, with the captain, I can't remember her name. Yeah, Emma Thompson. And the dog, the cat,
and the professor.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? Because it wasn't like forcibly like, you know, fed to me as I was watching the movie. It was just this like nice side thing. I really loved them.
Yeah, and it gives you the time like in the background to build it up.
Yeah.
Whereas really the real relationship developing is between Jim and Silver, which is again like, if I think not just about his design, but like his arc is really interesting as well, because there's a little moment where he says, you know, you give up a lot chasing your dreams or something like that, and he's looking at his mechanical hand. So it's really fitting that when they arrive in the vault with all the treasure, that he's the one who triggers the trap by stepping across the tripwire.
Yeah.
Because to me it kind of says that like he's so consumed getting the treasure, he just barrels ahead, causing destruction everywhere, even to himself, like he's lost limbs, that the lack of caution or consideration really ultimately spells his doom for his dreams. Do you know what I mean?
And when it comes time for him to again kind of choose between, you know, like chasing his dream.
Yeah.
When it comes time to like choose between like the treasure and Jim. Yeah, you kind of see him like I mean, he gave up his limbs trying to get this treasure. Like I would get it if he let like this stranger's kid like go to the flames, you know?
Just fall.
Yeah, but he ends up picking Jim, and I'm just like, Silver, I love you, man. You're so cool.
Yeah, which is such a, like, you don't see that kind of depth of character development in villains usually.
No, it's much more black and white.
Yeah, whereas in here, he's just like, well, he's not black or white, he's silver.
Yes.
I just, again, it's nuanced in a way that's really, it's so brilliant. But even characters like Ben, you know, he's technically brilliant. He doesn't really work for me.
I don't like Ben. I just felt like he was unnecessary.
He's definitely the worst part.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is, I told you that I did an Arabic podcast reviewing Treasure Planet.
Yeah.
And a lot of my friends that were with me on the podcast were like, but Ben was funny.
No.
And I'm like, but for me, the professor was the comedy relief. And then Ben
just shows up an hour in.
Yeah, and then he shows up, I guess, when the professor starts to be a more serious character. But I was like, I don't know. I didn't feel like I needed him then.
No, I think he was completely unnecessary.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of like they're trying to inject the genie or a Robin Williams into something like that.
Yeah, but 40 minutes too late.
Yeah. And also, like, he doesn't really... Like, I understand that he has plot, devices that... Actually, all he really does is warn them of the booby trap too late.
Yeah.
What else does he do?
Nothing. He's just really obnoxious.
Yeah, and I get the reason as to why, like, but there's subtlety that you can put into a character like that. I think it was just his characterization was really frustrating and overbearing, and he was just like, oh, please just stop talking.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, he does have great moments where he's like unplugging all the bits on the ship. That's funny and fun, but like if you're going for more genie-esque character, there's really, I know you don't really like Aladdin, but the characterization of Robin Williams in the genie, there's a subtlety and a care there, like a fatherliness to it that Ben just did not have.
And he's also funny. Ben's just not funny.
Yeah, he's not funny.
He comes off in the film. He's meant to be an annoying character, and I guess sometimes Genie is meant to be an annoying character, but to the audience, the way he the way he portrays the comedy can still be funny to me at the expense of the character that's dealing with the comedy. And Ben is just obnoxious, and he just makes things harder for Jim and the other characters. Yeah. Like constantly. Yeah. It felt unnecessary, I guess.
They could have easily written him out, just scratched out that line.
Yeah.
Like, he's technically marvelous because he's fully 3D animated. And they invented controls so they could get a kind of a 2D expressions out of or 2D traditional hand-drawn expressions out of the 3D rig. Like, they morphed in and kind of had these deformers on it, so he could like drop his jaw on and it's like squash and stretch kind of stuff. But like, whatever, that's great, but my God, just please stop. Just
I wonder if they kept him. Maybe he would have had a bigger role in the sequel. I was sad at first when I heard there was a sequel that got canceled, but then when I started reading about it, I'm kind of okay with them.
Oh, what was it about?
It was gonna be about like Jim having a love interest, which was not why I loved Treasure Planet. You know? Yeah. At first I was hyped that he was like, it was gonna be around him going into this academy and trying to stay out of trouble. I'm assuming he's gonna get into a lot of trouble while he's there.
Classic adventure.
Yeah, but also while he's there, like, I think one of his classmates is going to be a love interest. And she kind of looks a little bit like a captain. Maybe they're from the same species. I'm not sure. But I was not into that. I was like, no, I would have loved to see more of a continuation of their, treasure adventures.
Yeah, especially with Silver.
I actually would have been more interested in Silver having a love interest than I am of Jim, because I mean, like, I've already seen that. I've seen the whole romance plot done over and over again, especially in a school setting. Like, thank you, next. But for Silver, because he's like you've known him to be a selfish guy, and now we get it. Like, we love Silver. He has a soft spot for Jim. It can see him kind of like as his son.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it would have been interesting if if they tried to set up Silver with Jim's mom or something. That would have been interesting. Yeah. Or the dad comes back.
Oh shit, that would have been a way better second film.
Yeah, but don't go back to the whole romance
no, leave it alone.
thing taking over a big chunk of the plot. Like, leave it as a side thing. That's fine, whatever.
Yeah.
But I never liked it taking over the whole thing. It's not fun.
But I think you approach this from a very character-driven point of view, don't you?
I like to think so.
Not at all, it turns out, yeah.
It just doesn't... I feel like Jim has more interesting themes he can tackle as a young adult character than to do the whole romantic thing.
What did you think of the design? the kind of worlds and everything.
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah.
You kidding? Steampunk, Victorian, kind of weird mishmash. I was into it. Yeah, I loved it. I love the aesthetics of it.
I was reading a little bit about the design and how they approached it. I don't know if you know about it, but
from what I remember, like numbers. Like I think it was supposed to be like 70% like Victorian-esque, and then 30% is like the CGI steampunk. That's all I remember.
Yeah, more kind of science fiction.
Yeah.
Which is very smart. But apparently they approach that through the music that way as well. That it's like 70% orchestral and then 30% more modern. Or that's why there's only really two songs in the movie, 2 original songs.
Ah, it's funny you bring up the songs. Because I kind of, like, one of my theories as to why it wasn't advertised as well as a film is maybe because it didn't have enough original songs.
And the cast don't really engage with the songs. It just kind of plays over.
No, it's just a background thing, which is fine. I mean, Tarzan had that. Yeah, but it was more than one song.
Yeah.
For Treasure Planet, and it's an amazing song and I love it, but I feel like if they had more songs to the point where, you know, like, you know, to the level of Tarzan, it would have been much more iconic, you know?
Yeah, I think iconic. And included on all the Disney sing-alongs, which make people kind of remember Disney films a lot more.
But it's that kind of like iconic music will stick with you no matter what.
Yeah.
You know, you'll end up singing it in, you know, late in London.
At night, and everyone joins in because everyone knows the words.
15 years later. Yeah. Like, even as a kid, I remember, like, even before being able to see a lot of the movies, like, we had those cassettes that were just the sing-alongs.
Yeah.
And they had a lot of songs to movies we've never seen, but we knew the songs. Eventually we saw the movies eventually, but I'm saying that the music reached us before the movie.
They're smart, aren't they, with the marketing?
Yes, but for some reason, that all went out the window when it came time for Treasure Planet. Thanks a lot, Disney.
I guess they didn't think they could compete with Pixar or what DreamWorks were doing. You know, if you think about, which is actually kind of strange because if you look at the films the previous year, and I'm going to use the Oscars as a point of like people appreciating animation.
Yeah.
Because in 2001, it was the first year they ever introduced the animated, like best animated feature, Shrek 1, you know? But the second year, 2002, which is when Treasure Planet was nominated for an Oscar, it was up against Lilo and Stitch, Ice Age, Spirit, you know, the one about the horse.
It was up against Lilo and Stitch?
Lilo and Stitch as well, because they came out the same year. That came out in the summer.
Oh my God, Disney!
Yeah, I know, right?
Dang it! Yeah. Does that not feel set up to you?
Yeah, it does. But they were both nominated. But it was also up against Spirited Away that year. Spirited Away got the Oscar, which is kind of crazy because that's almost completely traditional hand-drawn animation as opposed to Ice Age or like I said, Treasure Planet. So it's not like they had their finger on the pulse or anything like that. They just killed the industry because it was more expensive and again audiences were going in for more the Toy Stories and A Bug's Life or Monsters Inc. You know, and I'm sure I'm part of that because I saw Monsters Inc. in the cinema. I did not see Treasure Planet.
I saw Spirited Away in the cinema.
Here's a question, right? So let's say something like Spirited Away, you watched Treasure Planet. What age were you when you would have first seen it?
Maybe around 10.
Okay.
I think all of them around 10.
Yeah, all at the exact same time.
Yeah, because DVDs were like a big thing, like from when I was 10 to 11.
Yeah.
Like that's when the whole DVD boom happened. At least for here, like, you know, it was like...
No, it's definitely here as well.
People were going crazy for them.
I remember my first DVD I think I bought was Harry Potter, the first one.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think we saw that one in the movies.
Yeah, no. I saw it then, but then when it came out on DVD, I was like, oh, woo, you know,
okay.
I got Harry Potter. and then watched it. Let me ask you, Treasure Planet.
Yes.
How much did you think about that, let's say, when you're creating your own stuff? Do you ever go back and refer to it or?
Not specifically, but I think it inspired, like, a lot of the main characters that I write are kind of very much like Jim in the sense where they're trying to figure their own shit out without necessarily having somebody to guide them through it. And at the same time, like kind of the rest of the world or the rest of the people around them are trying to label them as this one thing, but they're not. They're trying to be better than what they're supposed to be. Like in Emara, like the first opening scene is like, or part of like the first episode, like is just like these like women just like kind of trash talking Emara, as her like actual self, which is Moza. And you see kind of throughout the show that she is more than just like, you know, a failure. She's also supposed to be kind of a high school dropout as well.
Yeah.
We didn't have enough time to, you know.
No, it makes sense.
Mention that. Yeah. Mention that naturally at the very least. But yeah, like
she just says it on one stage. Imagine.
Moza's kind of a loser, but also like a little bit of her, even as Emara, like she messes up a lot, but she's still trying to do the right thing and be the better person or a better version of herself.
Very Jim Hawkins.
I tried to do it. I mean, I even introduced like the secondary character of the Beyond. Yeah. And even when it came down to like the end of it, where we've amped him up to be, he's supposed to be a supporting character to Emara. Yeah. But I wanted Emara as a character to learn to be able to rely on him. Yeah. But to not necessarily as a character have to still be dependent on him, you know, like when things get like really bad or really serious. I didn't want him to necessarily have to be
the savior,
always the one that saves her. You know, if there is any saving, it's going to be at the very least an equal amount of saving. She's going to save him a few times.
Yeah, of course.
Even now, like I'm writing something for a little live action thing that may or may not go anywhere. We'll see. Yeah. But and they're like 4 characters, and all of them are kind of written in a similar way that's kind of influenced by Jim Hawkins from Treasure Planet.
Wow. So it's really in there then. Yeah. Constantly.
Yeah, I think so. Because that's the kind of character that really like stood out to me as a kid. So, or as like someone that was, you know, trying to grow up.
Do you relate to him in any way?
I think, yeah. 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 I think personality wise, I was also a lot like Jim. That's a bit of a troublemaker. Like my poor mom, like for parent teacher conference, she just would not hear the end of it. I was like the lesser of like 3 evils. I will say my sister and brother were a lot worse, but we were very much like, not just in school, but also in my family, we were labeled as, you know, the bad kids.
Wow, really?
Yeah. And we had to really try to like break out of that growing up.
And how did you break out? Well, actually, no, it's not a therapy session.
I mean, I didn't really break out of it.
You're still there. Yeah.
Me as that bad kid, you know, seeing like this other bad kid character, still, you know, get his shit together by the end of it kind of made me think, you know what? Maybe I don't always have to be like a certain kind of way, or maybe I'm not this like person that somebody else is telling me that I am.
Yeah. And here you are. Congratulations.
Yeah. Still, you know, worse than ever, but yeah. Ooh, can I ask you something about Treasure Planet? I was curious.
Yeah, of course you can.
I was curious as to who your favorite character was and why.
Definitely Silver, I think.
Yeah.
Like there's I think I said it before, but there's a nuance to him that's like, you can see the act that he plays in front of the captain and everything, and it's kind of roguish and charming and fun, and I love that kind of character, the charming kind of one. But when it comes down to quote unquote the shit hitting the fan, character like that faced with tough decisions, making the right one, it's interesting, because if you can set up an antagonist that you relate to more, like emote to more than even one of the protagonists, like the captain or something, that's incredible writing. I just really like the idea of someone coming through for you. Yeah. Knowing that you can rely on someone is a wonderful thing. Not that you need them to save you, but just to have backup.
Yeah, and that's what Emara was supposed to kind of blossom into. Yeah. Whereas a bunch of different superheroes were supposed to come out of a lot of the other Arab countries as well, to include more representation and to and to kind of also force Emara to play nice with others and also have to learn to really be a leader, and you're not just be a hero by yourself. When things like get harder, you're gonna need help.
Yes.
You're gonna need to be able to know how to communicate with people.
Yeah. and we're fundamentally flawed. Like we make mistakes, horrible mistakes, and we just don't see things sometimes, but someone else can see that, and it makes it all the better for it. They point out, look at this, and you're like, oh yeah, I never saw that. And that's what I really liked about Treasure Planet, like to see that relationship blossom is really lovely. And as well, like I just geek out on the 2D and 3D crossover. Like it's so smooth.
That's so good.
Yeah,
it's so good. Oh yeah, I have another question.
Okay.
Live action Treasure Planet, do you think would have more potential than all the Disney stuff that they're trying to recreate?
I think don't make the changes that don't help the story. If you're going to take it, remake it the way it is, and then add things to help. Build out the world a bit more, because the Ethereum world seems amazing, and I think the technology now would make it look beautiful. It would make it really just jaw-droppingly beautiful, like the spaceport. But how do you feel about it?
I think if they keep Clements and Musker involved in it, in the remake, I think I wouldn't be worried about the story.
True.
And I think visually, like in terms of visuals, I can rely on Disney. I think they're going to do a good job.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I don't think there's movies now that are, well, I could be wrong, that put out crap visuals where you're like, what is this? Who approved this?
Yeah.
Because everything now is like lit and rendered to show off everything that they've made, all the textures and everything. But yeah, you're right. If the guys were involved, I'd be happier about it, and I'd hope it would get the recognition it deserves.
If anything, like at least people will be like, oh, I remember this movie. Let me go back and watch it.
Yeah, watch the good stuff.
Just show it a little love, because it's so underappreciated.
But it's good to see that it is influencing people like you.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. I'll always go back to it.
You're gonna go watch it now?
Yeah, actually I will, because like I mean we talked about it this much. If I gotta watch it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Again,
yes.
For the 100th time. I was gonna say there was another movie that I was also conflicted about bringing up.
Yeah.
I was conflicted about choosing between Treasure Planet and this other film. For me, it was also Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Or The Hunchback of Notre Dame. I think it did well in the box office, but I just don't think a lot of people still like bring it up.
Yeah, I think.
I liked it. It's super dark.
Yeah,
but I learned to like it as an adult.
Yeah. And especially like Hellfire and everything, like Judge Frollo. And it is completely overlooked, isn't it? Like everyone forgets about. What's her name?
Esmeralda?
Esmeralda, oh no.
How dare you? She's my favorite Disney princess.
Is she? Is she considered a princess?
She's the people's princess. I mean, are you kidding?
I can't believe I forgot her name. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. You're forgiven.
Yeah. I'm not sure about that, but I'll take it.
I think she's one of the best written female characters for Disney.
Yeah, she's not she doesn't need to rely on people. She's very headstrong.
No, she's very headstrong. She's not really a pushover character. Like even when she is in need of help, she doesn't feel like a whiny character.
Yeah, sit in my tower kind of and
just wait.
I kind of like when people pick things very far out of the loving center of animated pantheon, like nobody has picked The Lion King, and I was hoping you'd pick something more Arabian, but I'm not sure what
I mean, there's not that many options.
Yeah, exactly.
It would have been like either Aladdin or the Japanese Sinbad
but something made
cartoon.
in the Arabic states, I meant.
There's not really, I don't think we have anything. No, everything that they're doing now is mostly I know Saudi's doing a bunch of stuff, but it's like the animation is mostly made in Japan. Yeah, so it's very heavily anime
inspired.
No, it is pretty much anime.
just redubbed.
Yeah, they're trying hard, and I don't want to put anybody down, but maybe I don't necessarily want to start the sentence out like that. But what I want to say is that I would like to see more stuff, coming out of here completely. I mean, even in Emara, we did outsource the last 2 episodes. Just the animation,
really?
though. Yeah. We outsourced it to Sun Creatures, the guys behind The Reward. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I'm not, but go on.
It is, they did this animation that went viral, and I think they did it as students. Cool. And it was about these two really funny characters fighting over a map, but their style of animation was very interesting to me.
Yeah.
So while working on Emara, turns out we had a tighter deadline than we originally told. So there was no way we were going to finish all 5 episodes in time for the deadline. So I reached out to them if we could outsource the last 2. To them, just the animation, and then like all pre-production and post-production is done in-house still by us.
That's amazing.
And they were like, yeah, let's do it, and we did it, and it was really fun working with them. I really love their animation style.
Treasure Planet, final thoughts, Fatima?
Underrated, iconic to me. I think deserves some kind of re-release in cinemas if Disney would ever even consider that.
Yeah, definitely, to get it the props it deserves. What I would say, guys, is really please do, if you haven't seen Emara, check it out. You've probably seen it. I'm going to leave links anyways. Fatima is a lovely, warm, generous person.
Yes, thank you. That is the biggest compliment.
Very welcome. And you're so generous with your time. I really appreciate it, Fatima. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Shukran.
Afwan. How do you say it in like the actual like Irish language?
Gorev Mahagut.
One more time.
Gorev Mahagut?
Gorev Mahagut.
I'm going to type it out.
You know what? Yeah, type it out.
You're not going to be able to pronounce this.
No, I was expecting a lot less syllables.
Yeah, Gorev Mahagut.
Gorev Mahagut?
Yeah, Gorev Mahagut.
Gorev Mahagut. Gorev Mahagut.
There you go. Jesus, bit of Gaeilge. There's very small Arabic phrases that I know. Obviously, salam alaikum.
Oh, you pronounce it pretty well, though.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it very much, and you pronounce it very, very well.
Oh, thank you so much. Fatima is a self-described desert child who loves to write and doodle.
Yes.
Hopefully, we see more of your work soon. I know you're working on live action stuff. Listen, it was a pleasure talking about Treasure Planet, and I think I'll leave it there. So thank you so much. Shukran.
Gorev Mahagut.
Oh, perfect.
Should I stop the recording?
Yeah.